I'm Tass Mellis of The Starters.
This is Ben Golliver with the Open Floor Podcast.
Hi, I'm Kristen Ludlow from NBA Inside Stuff.
I'm OG Anunoby of the Toronto Raptors.
Hey, I'm Elena Deladon, and welcome to the Double Clutch.
Double Clutch.
Double Clutch
Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Double Clutch Podcast. I'm one of your usual hosts, Mike Miller, and I'm joined once again by Nick Whitfield.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. And Tom Hall.
How are you doing, Mike? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. You?
I've had a bit of a roller coaster day, if I'm being honest. I started with an assembly about Christmas to my college, which was kind of been the focus of my month. So it was good to get that out of the way. I then went to a funeral to kind of bring the mood down a bit. Then came back
just a bit
to go to a disco at college.
A funeral than a disco?
Yep.
That is
very,
okay. Roller coaster is an apt description.
And then went straight from college to see the new Star Wars film, which I will make no comment on.
So that's another drop. So we've had peak drop.
Yeah, and then I had a bag of Doritos for tea, and I'm
living the
ready
dream
to podcast. So let's go.
Amazing. Nick, can you top that?
Not really. I've been at home working. I then played some Call of Duty after I finished working, and now I'm podcasting. So very uneventful in comparison.
Amazing. Right. Okay. That's thrown me off completely. But if you're not already subscribed to a podcast about assemblies, funerals, and Call of Duty, make sure you subscribe on whatever podcast provider you use. Rate and review us. It's much appreciated. If you're not already following us on social media, find us on all platforms at Double Clutch UK. We're going to look at Christmas. It seems like a fair time to do it with being days away. Are you guys all done with your Christmas shopping?
My final presents arrived today. So I managed to go entirely online shopping this year. So no stress of the high street for me.
Nice.
Excellent.
I've got everyone bought apart from my sister. She's really hard to buy for, so we'll see what I can find in the sales in this last week.
How about you, Mike?
No, I've done nothing. I've failed miserably this year. I keep meaning to, and then I forget.
You've been too busy coaching the Knicks.
There we go. And by Christmas miracle, having some success.
Yeah.
So win for me. My family can take that as a present enough. Okay, so let's talk about the NBA, because of course, Christmas Day means a lot of NBA action. Which is great for us because it's European friendly times. We're going to jump straight in. All 5 games are available on Sky Sports Arena. The first one tips at 5 p.m. It's the Celtics at the Raptors. I'm coming to you, Tom, first. Who have you got winning this one?
Of course, I'm going to take the Celtics.
I thought you might.
I think it's going to be... I'm looking down the list of all the games. I think it's going to be one of the more exciting ones. One, because it's a very watchable time for us in the UK. And two, just because I think the Celtics and the Raptors are playing at a very similar level now. Both teams came into the season and people weren't sure how good they were actually going to be. Obviously with the Celtics losing Kyrie and Horford, and then the Raptors losing Kawhi Leonard. But then they've both done all right so far and they're both looking pretty good. So I think it'll be an interesting matchup. I'm going to take the Celtics just on the basis of having more high quality players than the Raptors, who are kind of very reliant on Siakam at the moment.
Oh, I think that's fair. Nick, who have you got winning this one?
I'm actually going the other way. I'm taking Toronto, and the reason I'm going Toronto is, and hopefully listeners will get to read something I'm planning on writing maybe over Christmas about how Toronto's one of maybe the best team in the NBA at the moment in terms of game planning their defense around who they're playing. So I'm excited to see that, and I'm confident Nick Nurse is going to have something clever up his sleeve.
Yeah, no, I think that's another fair observation. Nick Nurse is just incredibly flexible and experimental. You know, the obvious one goes back to the finals with the Bucks and won, but obviously he's done a lot more stuff since then that hasn't got as much coverage. Very good at limiting stars. I did my predictions the other day, and I went with Boston, and I ummed and ahed over this. In terms of this being an exciting game, out of the 5, I ranked this 3rd. So I don't know. That's sort of bang in the middle. I'm not sure that's really exciting, but it is streaks ahead of at least one of those other games. It's going to be tough for them to win in Toronto, but I just think it comes back to essentially what Tom was saying. This is more of a team. This isn't centered solely around Siakam. Obviously, both teams have dealt with injuries recently, so it's going to be interesting to see how they can sort of put together we're still a couple of days away. I'm wishing good health to all men. Let's put it that way. And women too, obviously, but just in terms of specific NBA to all men.
What about
I've
Elves?
got Boston with Elves, yeah. Oh man, I got to get to watch Elf again. I love that film. But not Leprechauns, even though they are the logo of the Celtics. I just think on the road, Boston aren't too shabby. I just think they're going to come in and surprise Toronto a bit. I think they've done really well with the matchups this year for the majority of games as well, because we're looking at, the second and fourth seed at the minute in the East, and then we've got a couple of others that we'll get to in a minute. But anything you want to add to that? Because obviously at 5 p.m, great time for us. Probably a good time for when everyone's in that post-dinner lull, just trying to muster up some energy to do something else. It's probably a good time to just chill out and watch a game.
Yeah, I think that's a prime time for Christmas Day, for avoiding the accusation I face every Christmas Day of being antisocial just by sitting in front of a screen watching NBA from 5 p.m. onwards. But 5 p.m. is about right in terms of it's that lull before maybe you eat something else, maybe you do something else in the evening. So it's prime time. And only something else I'd add for the matchup is I think the Celtics' one weakness they have is obviously losing Horford in the offseason. They can get outsized with big teams, and the Raptors, they've still got Marc Gasol, still got Ibaka. They can still win that interior battle enough, I think, to pull this one out.
Yeah, we're going to need to see Rob Williams and Kanter step up. But yeah, I was just thinking about what you were both saying about 5 p.m. being very watchable and fitting that post dinner lull. How are your families what are their views on basketball? Were you going to be withdrawing yourself to watch the games, or are you going to be able to sneak it on with everyone else watching it?
My other half has the patience of a saint, and usually I don't get to watch it on the TV directly. It's through the iPad next to the TV. And she'll have something on the TV, but I think I'll get away with the 5 p.m. game because it'll be a good chance for the boy to watch it with me, and my mum, who's staying with us. So again, now I've got the patience of a saint. She'll probably be passed out for too much food, passed out next to the fire somewhere. So yeah, I'll be watching it live. I'm about 70 to 80% certain I will get it on the big TV.
Nice. And I'm guessing that slot's before any of the Christmas specials and whatever soaps will be coming on. So for me and my family, they'll be happy that I can get that out the way before you get any Coronation Street or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate that we're cable cutters. We don't watch any of that stuff. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, pretty similar. Everyone around me, family, friends, wife, they all understand the sickness that I have, so they're all very understanding, but they haven't caught the same illness, unfortunately. So I tend to be second screening while something else is on, while I'm focused entirely on my iPad or phone or whatever.
Similar experience, gotta say. Okay, let's move on to game 2 of the day, which is at 7:30 p.m, so still a reasonable time. The Milwaukee Bucks will face the 76ers in Philadelphia. Big game. Nick, who have you got taking this one?
This was one of the toughest to decide, but I think I have the Bucks, just because of the kind of run they're on, just because Giannis is pretty unstoppable. And Philly, like we talked about last week, they haven't quite clicked. And then I think the one disclaimer is if Embiid has one of his MVP type games, that would be the deciding factor. But outside of that, I just think Milwaukee have too much for Philly. Yeah,
I think I'm really torn on this one. It is tough. I think I'm going to take Philly just because their home form's been so good this season. Obviously, they lost for the first time at home the other day, but I think Oh, I don't know. The Bucks are really good, and we did. I mean, there was a lot of Chris Middleton slander coming from me last week. I'm not going to go into that again. But I mean, most people know that they're a Giannis central team, and I just think it's whether it's going to be Philly's night and they're clicking and Embiid's trying hard. And if they are, then I think you've got to take Philly at home, but I'm not confident.
It's 2 for 2. I'm agreeing with you again, Tom. I've gone 76ers. I made my picks Monday, I think, so before they lost at home, and that played a big part in my decision, the fact that they are pretty solid there. And then in terms of the make of this team, even though they like we say, haven't clicked, they are still designed with one thing in mind, and that's stopping Giannis. That they've got the size and the length and the ability to switch to if not stop, then certainly slow him down.
Horford's about as good as you're going to get, I think.
Yeah, and Bledsoe's going to be out for that with the leg injury. Must still be out by then. So I'm leaning Philly because no man is an island, even if he's got enough letters to fill the island in his name. Yeah, I'm going Philly. I'm going Philly on that one. Are you guys going to be able to watch that one live, or will it get to the point where your significant others are like, "Come on now, you've watched 3 hours of basketball. Let's give someone else a go"?
It'll probably be second half. I imagine we'll leave my parents where we're going at about 9ish, and so I can get back for the last bit. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah, this one I'll have to play by ear, I think. The only thing I'd add for the matchup is, I completely get what you were saying, Mike, in terms of they're so well geared up to stop Giannis. And I think the interesting counterpoint to watch for in that game is the likes of Brook Lopez, Ilyasova, the kind of bigs they have that can stretch the floor, how successfully they can bring Horford, Embiid out of the paint, how well they shoot effectively may kind of impact how easily Philly can kind of pack the paint to stop Giannis. But yeah, it's a really interesting one to watch.
Yeah, I agree. It will be. And in terms of, you mentioned Embiid having an MVP game, he seems to need some kind of inspiration. And what's bigger than playing the MVP on Christmas Day? I mean, I say what's bigger than that. Obviously, playoffs and everything like that are much bigger, but I don't know. I just think this is a huge stage for him to sort of quell some of these rustlings about his abilities and potential as a superstar in this league. 10 p.m. So we're starting to crack on a bit now. People will be getting tired. Turkey comas in full effect, and you've got what would 8 months ago have been probably the pick of the slate. The Rockets at the Warriors, the 5-24 Warriors. Is anyone not picking the Rockets?
No.
Is anyone going to sit through this?
I'll give it a few minutes. That's it.
I will follow the score in case, because it's one of those ones where the Warriors, as bad as they are, I quite enjoy watching them anyway, because you're seeing like Eric Pascal and guys like that, and you see D'Lo going off and stuff in these games. So if it's a close game, I might turn it on just to see what's happening, especially as I think I may be one of James Harden's only fans. So I may watch this game depending on the scoreline, but probably not.
Yeah, I wouldn't call myself a fan. I'm begrudgingly respectful of his abilities. Okay, then. So let's go this way then on it. If we're not buying into this as a competitive matchup, the all-time top single game performances score-wise is 60 points from Bernard King. Over/under on Harden beating that record.
I'll take the over. I have to.
Ooh, okay.
I think I will as well. I think I'm going to go for it. If he's in the mood, and if they don't bench him at the end of the third quarter, then
certainly it's in play.
Yeah.
I think as bad as the Warriors are as well, guarding or stopping perimeter scorers is the thing, is literally their Achilles heel, even as bad as they are. If you see any of the games where they've played Dame or someone like that, they literally can't stop them with the team they have currently. So James Harden will be looking at that game, having it marked down as a national TV game to show out. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, especially with the sort of bad blood that's sort of develops over the years between them in this top the Western Conference. There could be a pseudo revenge game going on. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, and we're getting back to normal NBA times now. This is a 1 a.m. tip. The Battle of Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Clippers at the Los Angeles Lakers. The 24-4 Lakers, 21-8 Clippers, 1-2 in the West. Tom, who have you got coming out of this one?
I'm going to take the Lakers in this one. I'm not sure why. I think if we see this in the Western Finals or whenever in the playoffs, I would definitely take the Clippers to take the series. I'm just not sure they're as bothered in the regular season as the Lakers are. Yeah, the Clippers are too deep. All the arguments I'm making are for a Clippers win, but I'm still going to take the Lakers just because they're in form. They seem to be gunning for the regular season, so yeah, we'll go with them.
I'm going to be very boring, and for exactly the same reasons, I'm going to take the Lakers just because I think they care more. It wouldn't even surprise me if you saw Kawhi sit. It would half surprise me, but I feel like they're coasting just to get to the playoffs. They're not really bothered. They're not even... I think even if you watch this game, they'll be putting Harkless on LeBron. They won't be putting Paul George and Kawhi on him. So just because I think they care more, I'm taking the Lakers.
And again, same reason. I've gone Lakers as well, despite the fact that, and exactly as Tom says, if it's a playoff series, it's a completely different story. But a single game showcase event following the game one, it was only a 10-point loss in the opening game, but all the narratives that developed out of that, I've gone Lakers. It's something they need to do, and they're going to be motivated to do it, in my opinion. Not a lot more we can say on that one. We've all agreed on it. Now, are you guys going to stay up for it?
This is the peak game. Hold on, move on to the next one.
We're going to move on to this, the one that everyone's been waiting for. The 3:30 a.m. What are you on about? Set your alarms. You'll still be going from the Clippers game. Just switch straight over. The 7-22 Pelicans will visit the 18-8 Nuggets. Is anyone picking the Pelicans here?
No, not a chance.
All right, well, that's killed that one then. Do you know what's frustrating is, I say it's frustrating, it's not really frustrating for me, it's for the schedule makers. If there hadn't been injuries, this lineup of 5 games would be amazing. It's just so unfortunate that, Zion out, and obviously Steph, Clay are out, KD left, and all that stuff that we've already been over a million times.
I'm intrigued with the Pelicans. We're all waiting for Zion to come back as if he's this god of basketball that we're expecting him to be. I didn't have them as this bad coming into the season. I wonder
you
how
were
much
high
better
on them,
they'd
weren't
be.
you? Actually, remember the preview?
Yeah, massively high. I did the preview for them on the website and thought they'd be on the fringes of the playoffs. That was with Zion, but even without them, I thought they'd be pretty strong. The rookies they brought in, I thought were good players. I thought they signed some good veterans in Redick and Favors, and Drew Holiday's still there, so I thought they'd still be pretty good. So this 7-for-22 start has been unexpected for me, and I'm a bit disappointed in them.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the other interesting thing there is that you look through the roster. And it's not like there's people on that roster playing badly or worse than you expected. Ingram's having his career season so far. Redick's Redick. Melo has come in from Italy, is doing well. It's all of these guys are actually playing pretty well, but the sum of the total sum of their parts don't equal wins so far. So let's see what Zion brings when he comes back. But it's very hopeful as a rookie that he's going to turn that around. It's a lot of pressure on his shoulders.
If he'd been playing, do you still think they would be pushing for an 8th seed? I mean, they're only 6 games back now.
That's mad. 6 games back with a 7-for-22 record.
So there's a real difference in the records this year compared to recent years where we've seen the West have such fantastic records in general. It's so frustrating because I desperately want to see Zion on the court. He looked pretty solid in the few appearances we saw him in the preseason. He did look very, very good, shooting high percentage. very limited in what he could do on the floor in terms of it had to be within 2 feet essentially. If it wasn't a dunk, he wasn't shooting. Although I say that, and I've just had a flashback to a switch hands layup he did, which was soft as anything. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to get lost in that for a few seconds. It's just a shame. Do you think Gentry's going to last much longer?
We spoke about this last week, didn't we? Because we were talking about who's going to get fired next. And we floated the idea of Gentry, but then kind of dismissed it because we thought he'd get some time with Zion. I still think, I mean, Zion, they've said he's going to be, it was an 8-week injury. It's been 8 weeks and we've still not heard anything. So I do think they'll give him some time with Zion because it'd be unfair to give him the superstar player and then not let the coach have any time with him. But I don't know if if Zion can stay fit for the rest of the season and things don't start to look better, I can't imagine Gentry is going to be given too much more time.
Any chance we see Zion on Christmas Day?
I don't think so. I don't think the silence has been a very good thing. You would imagine if he's getting any healthier, there'd be videos going up on Twitter and things like showing him dunking or whatever. But the fact we've just heard nothing, I don't really feel like it's very encouraging. So,
do you think he comes back this season at all? It seems to me. I mean, if I were them, I would, despite the the sort of the leveling of odds for the number one pick, I'd be tempted to just sit him for the year, make sure he's fully healthy, fully recuperated, and give myself the best possible chance at pairing him with another star rookie, and then just continue to build this young core. Yeah,
that's interesting. If he does come back and they start playing really well, and then they kind of finish with like a record that is neither here nor there, does that help them in the long term? It's an interesting argument to say that they could maybe play him sporadically or sit him for the whole season and then bottom out and come out with another top pick. That will be interesting, and I think Zion, whoever you end up drafting in the next draft, Zion's always going to be your main man. But yeah, it would definitely help them long term if they did that.
Are we suggesting they could have two Ball brothers on the same team?
No, I didn't even. Yeah, they couldn't they? That would be.
And they officially become the Big Baller Pelicans.
I'm cringing.
Well, the New Orleans Big Ballers.
Big Ballers. That would be.
Imagine what a mess of those shoes Zion would make.
Oh wow, yeah, ripping through Kyrie's.
Well, no, because he would never receive them. So,
true.
was it? Lonzo was saying he had to change them every quarter. Essentially, they were that bad.
Yeah,
man, yeah. One jump stop and they're shredded, and Zion's career's done. Okay. So this was the next bit's was an idea from you, Tom. So relating to Christmas, what's your Christmas NBA wish? Take us through what you want us to answer here, because this is a really open thing. Talk us through.
I'll give you an idea because I had a few ideas for this. One was what we've just talked about, which I was originally going to go with. So having a healthy Zion for the rest of the year. But I've changed my mind since then. I was also thinking about it would be nice to have a Mike Conley that's playing well. It'd be nice to have the Celtics as a selfish one. The Celtics finishing the year with no injuries. So Hayward and Smart and all those guys coming back and staying healthy. It would have been nice to see Isaiah Thomas playing MVP style basketball like he was a few years ago, which is super unrealistic. Yeah. But I'm going to go with, and this is the most out there one I could have gone with. I've got a really unjustified obsession with Semi Ojeleye on the Celtics. And he's a terrible basketball player when he's got the ball. An amazing defender, but when he gets the ball, you just watch him and he's got no idea what to do at all. So my Christmas wish is for Semi Ojeleye to start knowing what to do when he gets the basketball.
That's quite a savage wish. Okay. Nick, have you got any Christmas wishes in that vein?
I want Whoopi Goldberg to take over the Knicks. Aside from Knicks aside, I think my Christmas wish is going to be kind of linked a little bit to what I was talking about earlier with the likelihood in the Clippers-Lakers games that you don't actually see the stars match up. And that's something I really hate. That's a trend that's entered the NBA where in regular season games, it's kind of like bad for players' image, and they want to rest them. They don't want to exert them by making them guard each other's best players. And I don't know. I just really hate that. As fans, you want to see the best guys going against each other. So I think Giannis is one of the only guys with that kind of attitude left after Kobe Bryant left the NBA, and that's something as a fan I really enjoy watching, is guys of this level taking it personally, going against each other, whereas that's kind of left the league. And so bringing that back is what I'm wishing for.
I like that. I think the way to do that would be to get rid of the taunting, the ban on taunting, essentially. Let players go at each other. Let, like, aftermath, like the Lister blister where Kemp was just pointing, that come back and be part of the game, because we get it now and they get teed up, and it just sort of takes away that aggressive competitiveness. And I agree, I'd like guys to have that ego where it's like, obviously the ultimate goal is a championship, but that you take the pride in playing these other guys on night to night, because they're going to try and put you on a poster and you need to dominate, essentially. Christmas wish for me, new ownership for the Knicks, and I'm not a Knicks fan. I'm heavy in that. What were your thoughts on the appointment of David Blatt as a basketball advisor, essentially, for the Knicks front office, Nick?
Until we see, I think, tangibly the responsibilities he's given and his freedom to operate without interference, it's hard to say. He's a great basketball mind. He's coached at the highest levels in Europe and obviously had a stint in the NBA too. So, I mean, anything along those lines, it's got to be a positive shift, but I'm hesitant to jump to any conclusions or have a strong opinion either way, to be honest. Now.
I think that's fair. My one concern is that the reason he didn't last in Cleveland was because he couldn't, what's the word I'm looking for? Not manipulate, but he couldn't control LeBron's presence, if that makes sense. And so I wonder whether that's going to be off-putting for potential other stars going to New York, if the guy who's, I get he won't be a coach, but if he's, again, depends what his role is, but I wonder if that might have an influence somewhere along the line. I'm struggling to think of an actual what I would wish for this Christmas. I'm going to take it out of being on the court, and I'm going to say more 5 p.m. games throughout the year on weekends. Give me that. That's what I want from a selfish Christmas wish. Now, speaking of Christmas wishes, let's take a quick break to talk about our friends at NBAstore.eu, Europe's official online NBA store. We've teamed up with them to give you 15% off orders with the code DCPOD15, so grab yourself or someone else a great present this Christmas.
Even if you've made your list, checked it twice, and somehow you still forgot to cop, don't panic. There's still time to get non-personalised items in time for the big day. Just make sure you order with express delivery by 11 a.m. on the 22nd of December. Just remember to use DCPOD15.
With everything from jerseys and Spalding balls to bobble hats and pop vinyl figures, NBAstore.eu has got you covered like a well-basted turkey, wrapped in bacon and drenched in gravy.
Offer excludes sale and clearance items, but what are you waiting for? Head to NBAstore.eu now and use the code DCPOD15. Okay, let's jump into some quick hitters then. These were a bunch of suggestions, mainly from Nick, actually, I think they came from, of quick hit topics we can dissect and give our thoughts on. So first one, Tom, you mentioned a minute ago about making Mike Conley good. The quick hit question, are the Jazz better without Mike Conley? Tom, you can take the lead on this one.
I don't think so. I think he hasn't been great. Considering what we thought he was going to be coming in from Memphis, he was the main man there. He's not been anywhere close to that here. It's really hard to tell. They're 13-9 with Conley and they're 3-2 without him. He has, I think, re-aggravated that hamstring injury, so he's going to be out for a few more games. So we'll have a bigger sample size to see this in a few weeks. But I don't know. I feel like similar to what we've been saying about Philly, we're just waiting for the Jazz to click. They've started badly again, and I think I was looking at the past few years just before we were recording. Last year they were 17-18 at Christmas, and then finished 50-32, and then had a similar record the year before where they had a negative record and then finished with 48 wins. So I am expecting them in the new year to get going. Some of that will be reliant on Conley looking more like his old self.
And so I have a vested interest in the Utah Jazz this year, seeing as in my fantasy team, I ended up with 4 of the Jazz starters somehow in my draft. So I've been, I don't know. But I ended up But anyway, where I'm going with this. So Mike Conley is one of the guys I had. So is Joe Ingles. By Mike Conley being as bad as he has, and he has been awful. He's not only been bad, he's also killed Joe Ingles with his usage. Because Ingles last season and before that was coming in acting as a primary playmaker a lot of the time, especially with second units. And with Conley being out, all of a sudden Joe Ingles is back to being the player we know he is. And Royce O'Neal's been really good starting. And it's also given Donovan Mitchell, who hasn't been talked about much, but has been absolutely outstanding this season as well, more time to be the lead guard. Royce O'Neal shooting 45% from three as well, which is pretty crazy. And I just wonder, at Mike Conley's age as well, I know he has to be better than he has been so far when he gets back, because we know what type of player he is. But is it the point in his career, and with this particular team where they have so much playmaking in the starting five already, that Mike Conley is the first guard off the bench? And I just wonder whether, for the Jazz as a team, that's actually a better look, seeing as how well they've played without him.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. Overall, they're better with him. They're better offensively with him. They're worse defensively without him. But it's when you start digging into how he is as a player. Obviously, we've seen the eye tests, and he's not the Mike Conley we're used to. His points per shot attempt are the worst they have been in his career. He's in the 19th percentile for point guards in that. His assist percentage is horrifically low. It's his worst since his second season. His assist usage is his worst in his entire career, and his turnovers are he's dropped significantly in terms of his turnover percentage. It just feels like he's not comfortable. If you look at all those stats, it's a guy who's spent a decade doing one thing the way he knows how to do it, and he can't adjust in this new situation to deliver at the same level.
Yeah, and I worry he's always been the main man in Memphis, really.
Has he? Has he really? Because Gasol,
the past few years at least.
Well, yeah, okay, but I kind of feel like Memphis was always a bit by committee. Like there was at one point, it was Zach Randolph's team, and then it was Gasol's, and he's getting Defensive Player of the Year, and Mike Conley's constantly overrated. I asked, like, tongue in cheek when Mike Tuck was on a few months back now, whether hot take question was Mike Conley now overrated, and it's starting to become more and more of a sort of actually this is a genuine question we should be asking. We spent his entire career going, this is a potential, not even a potential all-star. This guy should be an all-star. He's underrated. He's criminally underrated. He needs to be recognised more appropriately, and he goes and gets a max contract. Okay, fair enough. I think there was a brief period he was the highest paid player in the league, and I think and then Houston re-upped Harden. But now he's just looking like he was the product of a situation. And so I wonder whether they would be better from the perspective of the pieces they could get back would change the team for a positive way. Of course, like you say, though, they traditionally go on a second half run and put together an amazing second half of the season. And Nick, I can't believe that you're blaming him entirely for jingles and not blaming Bojan Bogdanovic whatsoever coming in and nicking his starting spot.
I think it's the combination of those two things, though. And also, I mean, last week I was saying Quinn Snyder's a sneaky one to get sacked if they don't pick it up. Just because I don't think they've been clever in how they're using their lineups and distributing minutes between those guys with playmaking ability. They seem to have them all on the court at the same time, which doesn't really work very well, as we've seen already.
No, yeah, that's fair. I think they've made. I picked them as a conference finalist at the start of the season, which now just looks like a completely ridiculous prediction. But I just genuinely feel that they've had more roster overturn this summer than they've had in previous seasons, and that's contributed significantly to the imbalance of the team whilst it finds its identity again. That was a lot longer than I thought we'd spend talking on Mike Conley, considering it's a quick hitter. Next one. Does a move for Kevin Love actually make sense for anyone? Coming to you, Nick, on this one first.
So this is a painful one for me. And what I was thinking here when I suggested this as a topic is I really, really like Kevin Love as a person and a player. But his contract means he doesn't make sense for anyone based on the player he is today. He still has, after this season, he still has somewhere around 30 million owed to him guaranteed for another 3 seasons after this one. So the only team I would have liked him on potentially is had the Rockets not got Russell Westbrook. I think Kevin Love actually would have been a nicer fit and complement alongside James Harden than Westbrook, and similar age bracket. So if you're going to pay a huge amount of money to an aging star, maybe they would have been better with Kevin Love than Westbrook. And the other thing about Kevin Love is it's the kind of the other side of LeBron James that doesn't get talked about very much, where the team around him pressured Cleveland to give all these guys these huge contracts to keep them around, and now they're kind of stuck with them all. So that's the side of LeBron that doesn't get talked about very much.
The side that hamstrings an entire franchise for about best part of half a decade after he's gone.
Yeah, as he moves on to.
So would you be up
next.
for reuniting Love and Westbrook on the Rockets as a UCLA reunion?
In a vacuum, yes, but I don't see a way they could make it, unless they're including Capella, which would be dumb. Like, I just don't see a way to actually make it work realistically.
Yeah, the answer I had for this one after the suggestion was yes, it makes sense for Cleveland, but no one else. So I'm siding with you there. They need to shift off that contract. I think they're going to have to take back a lot of bad expirings. There must be something they can work out somewhere, but it's where does he fit? And as you say, who has got that cap space for a guy who at this point in his career, is he going to be anything better than the third best player on a playoff contender?
He's still a good player. The contract makes it horrible for anyone taking him on. I think it's a shame for Cleveland because last year I think his price would have been a lot higher. I know he was injured a lot, but this year there's not too many teams that need a power forward. And for the ones that do, there's probably people that you could get for cheaper than the Love in terms of what you're going to have to give up. I know, like Portland, who are desperate for forwards, they've been interested in Gallinari and players like that. The Knicks have got an abundance of power forwards that they should be looking to trade. So I like the idea of Love going somewhere else. I don't think, like you say, Mark, it's going to make sense for too many teams around the league.
Okay, next one. Can we say Melo has been good yet? I'm going to hold back my opinion on this one. I was going to jump straight in, but I'm going to hold back and bite my tongue.
Yes, I think so. I mean, in terms of just looking at Portland's record since it's come in, they've been a lot better. They're still not good defensively. In terms of what we've been expecting coming in, Melo could have gone one way or the other, and I think he's definitely been more positive than negative.
I'm going to disappoint you, Mike, and say that, and this is interesting because it was only a few weeks ago I think you, me, and Matt were all saying we were expecting this not to work. And so I feel there's a responsibility there to, when he's actually played well, to say he's played well. And is actually seeing him on the court, it makes a little bit more sense to me in terms of they're so skewed, Portland as a team, for scoring in the backcourt that even if he's not the most efficient offensive player, he kind of eases the burden a little bit on how many points Dame and McCollum need to score just for Portland to be in a game. And I talked about him not being efficient. A lot of that has been his kind of former bread and butter stuff, like his post-up stuff. But from three, he's shooting over 40%. His rebounding is up there with his career numbers. It would actually be, if he kept up his numbers currently, it would actually be his best ever season for steals. And his block numbers are up there with the best he's ever produced in the NBA as well. So the hustle on defense as well is something that I didn't see a lot of in New York, to be honest. So full credit to Melo.
I disagree. wholeheartedly disagree. I get that their record's been okay. So I will make some concessions here for the contract, the money they're paying him. Fine, I can live with what he's delivering. The idea that he is a good player in the league, I don't care that he got Player of the Week, which was a complete sham, by the way.
That was a joke.
They're 7-7 with him. Okay, fine. That's better than they were at before. That's 500. But of those wins, 2 were against the Chicago Bulls. 1 was against the Warriors, which is just you didn't need Melo to win those games. If you did need Melo to win those games, then shut up shop now, trade your best players because this team's doing nothing quick. And I get that there are injuries there and there are things that are out of their control, whatever. In terms of Melo, he might be shooting well from 3. He's not taking enough threes. He's only taking 25% of his shots from there, which just ranks him bang in the middle of an average, nothing special forward. He's taken far too many in the mid-range at all. In fact, 45% of his shots are coming in the mid-range. And in this league, that's not going to cut it. Like that's the 94th percentile, which basically means that of the entire league, he is in the top 5% essentially for amount of mid-range shots taken. And the way the league's trending that this way at the minute, that's not good, especially when you're only hitting 34% of them. To me, that's just like that is just smacks of inefficiency, and it might spread the scoring burden, but you're not being an efficient offense if that's what you're coming down to.
I agree with you, Mike, but I also think you can't ignore the context in terms of who they have on their roster. So if the alternative is Hassan Whiteside post-ups or any of their other guys, or Hazonia getting more minutes, and also you mentioned Melo's contract. I don't think you can avoid it because this guy was out of the NBA and he's on a minimum contract. So if you compare other players on a minimum for Melo's production, as inefficient as it may be at times, I think what we could agree on maybe is he's a qualified success in terms of Portland's roster and the situation they found themselves in and his contract. He's been a success. We're not saying Melo's back, that he's the all-star we've seen in previous years, but I think he's been better than any of us expected.
I wouldn't go so far as saying he's been good. I would go so far as saying he's been serviceable and positive, if that makes sense. Maybe it's where I'm defining good in terms of NBA.
For a minimum contract, what would you expect for a guy coming in on a minimum?
That's a good question. I don't know what I can't answer that directly, which is frustrating. What would I expect? I'm going to go away and have a think about that. But in terms of what he is putting out, he seems to be more accepting of this reduced role, which is great, because that's what he needed to be and should have been 5 years ago. But he still seems set in his ways, and you want an ideal role player. I'm just trying to think of the guys, but I don't know the contracts, so I don't know if they're on minimums. But we look at guys who fit in essentially as 3-and-D guys. Of course, he's never going to be a defensive presence, but just less isolation ball, less. I was watching. Sorry, I'm gabbling now, but I was watching one of the games recently, and he caught a rebound and dribbled at God knows what his 2K speed rating would be, but it's not high. 3 guys open around him, two in the corner for threes, which is, as we know, an incredibly efficient shot. 1 on the wide angle by the left elbow, wide open, and he dribbled into 2 players and took a step back pull up 2. And it's situations like that where I sit there and just go, okay, so you are bringing positives to the team. I get that. You're probably a plus in terms of overall contributions, but if given this guy is going in the Hall of Fame, given this guy is an elite all-star, blah, 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 where is his awareness I get that all players make bad decisions at times, and we're humans, we're not infallible. It just seems to happen too often for me, and I just think there is oh God, I'm just a Melo hater, aren't I? That's what this is all coming out as, is just bitter Melo hate. I just don't like it, and I don't want it on the team that I follow. I apologise for that ramble. Feel free to absolutely shred it.
I think Portland still makes the same move again.
Yeah, they had to.
Which is, it's justified. I mean, they fully guaranteed his contract.
And I don't blame them for
money,
doing
I think
that.
it's good, but
Let me put it this way, in my view of Melo, because I do agree with elements of what Mike's saying as well. Had Melo's contract run its course and only did a short period, the 10 games or whatever it was initially, I seem to remember it was a short period initially, he definitely would have got an offer from another team after how he's played. I think the worry was his... we saw all the Instagram videos of him shooting in empty gyms and stuff with his hoodie on, but what was his conditioning like? Is it an NBA level? And I think that's another credit to him in terms of he was able to walk off the street and start playing big minutes in NBA games right away. So that's a real show of professionalism on his side. And I think were he to become available at minimum again, there'd be a handful of teams after him.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and 100% respect his ability to stay ready. That to me is a testament to a professional. You're absolutely right. I'm just very, very glad that the rumours 2 years back that he was coming to the Blazers in a trade were absolutely unfounded, and that although he is here and I'm not 100% okay with it, it's on a team-friendly deal, and he is doing something. Sorry, you're going to say something, Tom?
yeah, I was just thinking, do you think if he maintains the level of play that he's at the moment for the rest of the year, what do you foresee happening next summer? Do you think we're going to see a similar thing where he's begging to get on teams again because he's so ball dominant and just shooting twos, or do you think we're going to see him snapped up a bit earlier?
I think he might get another shot somewhere. I'll be intrigued to see what happens when guys like Nurkic come back, and his shot opportunities are reduced further, because if he goes above Nurkic in the pecking order, and that's a problem for me, because I think when it comes to the way this offense is, Nurkic is an inside scorer, I get that, but Melo is just mid-range, and I wouldn't want that. I don't know.
Yeah, we spoke about it on 2 pods now with Portland maybe making a trade. I think it'd be so interesting to see how he responds if they do bring in another forward or a wing, and he's not starting anymore. How he responds to that mentally, and what comments he comes out with, and that kind of thing will be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, he's got them out of a hole. They've absolutely been demolished by injuries this season. Anyway, that's far too long on Melo. Let's move on. Andre Iguodala, rumoured to be heading to one of the LA teams. Where would you prefer to see him land, Nick?
This one I struggled with. I can see arguments for both sides, and I am actually... part of me wanted to say the Clippers because the lineup they could put out of Pat Beverly, Iguodala, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George, and probably Montrezl Harrell. I just wanted to see what that even looked like. Exactly, but for that reason, because of how good I thought that might be, I actually want to see him the other side of LA for the Lakers, because I think that would actually make a more compelling playoff series if... for example, LeBron and Iguodala were up against Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. That was something I actually figured I'd actually want to see more. So, yeah, I went for the Lakers.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think I would, as a Celtics fan, I would like to see him on the Clippers more, just to see that lineup that they could put up that you said, Nick. But I think in terms of where it would benefit the league and what team it would benefit the most, definitely the Lakers, just to fill out their depth. And imagine in playoff time as well, obviously he's one of the best defenders, or was, depending on how you think he's aging. So he would be really good to kind of free up LeBron and AD a bit more so that they're not having to try as hard on the defensive end when it comes to the playoffs. So I think I'm going to go reluctantly with the Clippers for that.
I've also gone Clippers, and it's exactly for the reason Nick stated straight off the bat, that this perimeter defense becomes, I think it's fair to say, on paper, one of the best all-time defensive lineups that you could throw out on the floor. And I think we'll appreciate him more in LA, because he won't necessarily have to guard the best opposing player, like where we saw him have to take heavy minutes on LeBron. He might not have to do that with guys like Paul George and Kawhi who can share the load and spread it between them. I don't have an issue with him going to LA either. He'll get better offensive looks there, but I feel that he would just be going to ease the pressure on LeBron defensively, if that makes sense. Interesting that interesting that Nick would prefer him in LA because I think he said essentially make that defense. I can't remember what it was exactly you said. Hold on, I'm just rerunning this in my mind. You said you didn't want the defense in LA to be as good as it would be. Sorry, was that right?
No, more in terms of I'm not a fan of super teams in general. So in terms of seeing compelling playoff basketball, I figured that him going to the Lakers makes that matchup even more compelling,
right?
As opposed to if he ends up on the Clippers as well. I think I would favour them heavily over the Lakers in a playoff matchup.
Yeah, that's not a bad point. Amazingly, the Lakers are ranked second defensively. So half of me was like sat there going, okay, but if he's in LA, that improves their defense as well. And I know we have to caveat the Clippers' rankings on everything because of their resting policy and whatever. But interesting one. Do you think he's there? Ends up via trade, or do you think it's going to be a buyout situation ultimately for Iggy?
Well, from everything I've read so far, it seems like Memphis is playing hardball, saying there's not going to be a buyout and teams need to give up assets. So it seems like Memphis is actually they know how valuable he is to a contender. So it seems like they're going to try and get whatever they can out of other teams.
Yeah, and they were saying early on in the season, or even before it started, that if it was a buyout, I think it would have happened by now. I do think Memphis would be so stupid if they were going to buy him out, because like you say, he's still a good player. They know that. Even if it's just a second-round pick, just getting anything back would be better than buying him out and then losing that space. And I do think they'd be really stupid to do that. So I definitely look for some kind of trade.
The deadline for buyouts isn't until late March, I want to say. So it's well after trade deadline. So they could, there's no harm in them holding on to him. I just kind of feel like if he's not played until that point, how much rust is he gonna have to sort of shake off before he can actually become the Iggy that we're used to? And I get that he's played reduced role for the past few seasons anyway. Slightly on that theme then, Kuzma, potential trade bait for someone like Iggy, and do you see him going anywhere else or being on the trade market? I
think the Lakers will definitely float him out there, just because I don't dislike him as a player. He's not one of my favourites, but I think he can contribute to a good team, and he's still on obviously minuscule money by NBA standards. So that's actually the difficulty with if they try to use him for Iggy. The thing is, Iggy's still on a big contract. So to make the money work, it's actually quite difficult for the Lakers, because other than AD and LeBron, they don't really have anyone on big money other than maybe Danny Green, who it seems like you'd be giving up one of your best defenders to get a defender, so that wouldn't really make sense either. So maybe Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Kuzma, and something else may work eventually, but it's quite definitely in general for Kuzma on the trade block. Not sure if they could make it work for Iggy though.
Memphis has to give up more than that. I think I wouldn't hold Kuzma and Iggy in the same in terms of value in a trade. I think Iggy's on his way out. Mm-hmm. He plays well defensively and he's okay offensively, but in terms of what Kuzma can do and his upside and his value around the league, I wouldn't put them two in a trade at all.
Remember, Iguodala's he's earning $17 million this season. Kuzma earns 1.7, so there has to be a big.
But even so, if they were earning the same, would you put them level in a trade, or who do you think that favours?
Remember, this is a LeBron team now who always favours short-term winning. So for a normal team, I agree with you. For a LeBron team, maybe not. If it gives him a better chance of winning a championship in the next 2 seasons, based on LeBron's age, maybe he pushes for that sort of trade to happen.
Yeah, if you're Memphis, I'm biting your hand off for that trade. I'd take Kuzma any day if you're giving up Iguodala, who's not really going to play. I just wonder with Kuzma, like, what is his ceiling? He's one of the older players that got drafted, and it's been really productive so far, but I'm not sure how much better we're going to see him. It's interesting, we spoke a lot about trading power forwards like Love and Gallinari and that kind of thing, and I do think Kuzma has a bit more appeal around the league because of his salary that you've already mentioned, and because he's only 24. So any of those teams like, I don't know, Atlanta and the Pelicans, if they were looking to shake it up, or any of those teams that wouldn't want to burden themselves with a big salary in like a Kevin Love trade, they could probably look towards someone like Kuzma and give the Lakers back someone a bit more productive in return.
Yeah, I'm looking at the salaries to try and see if there's anything they could make work, and it's outside of Danny Green, there is not a lot of money on this roster. You'd have to package together basically half the team to even get close to making the salaries match.
And let's be honest, guys, Alex Caruso is not going anywhere near the trade block.
No, that jersey's being retired.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Okay, one last one then, and we'll get on some trivia. Dion Waiters, who's played 0 games this season, following a variety of suspensions, including edibles on a plane, and then most recently calling in sick and posting an Instagram photo on his boat, or on a boat, which seems like such a stupid thing to do. Everyone knows if you're gonna be, fake being sick, you don't start posting on social media. That's just ridiculous.
Rookie error.
What do you foresee of Dion's future? Where does he go from here in the NBA? Is there even room for him to, somewhere for him to call home in the NBA, Tom?
I didn't realise this. He's only 28 years old.
He looks a lot older, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he's a bit podgy as well for a basketball player.
Get hungry after those edibles, apparently.
I don't know. I don't think there's any way back for him in the near future unless we see a dramatic change and he goes away and comes back with a brand new mindset, and there's videos of him on Twitter being a changed player and a changed man. I can't see anything in the USA happening in the next couple of seasons. Definitely not. Just what a fool you've got to be to have a career as a professional basketball player and then go do stupid stuff like that. It's ridiculous.
In my eyes, he has 2 options. He is Larry Sanders 2.0 and just doesn't play basketball again, or he's got another year on his contract. After that, he's sort of done. And maybe based on what we've seen from him, maybe he's kind of earned his money, he's done with it anyway. Or he goes to China and earns a lot more money again, scores 20-something a game and does that and is happy doing that. I don't see... There's a lot of talent around the world and in the G League and all the rest of it. I don't see, for what he brings to the game, why teams are going to have someone like that on their roster these days, because there's no reason to.
2 years left. He's earned $42 million so far throughout his career, with another 24 on the table this season and next season, although he's not earning a lot of this season's money with the unpaid suspensions. I wouldn't be surprised if this continues down this vein. If Miami look at explore, obviously the amnesty clause that was in the last CBA has expired. But if they look to somehow renege on the contract for gross misconduct or something, or continued, just and if they do that, that would be a really odd and quite unique. I can't remember another instance in the NBA where middle of a contract they've managed to break it.
And it's 12 million as well. So yeah, I imagine they're exploring the possibilities like mad.
Yeah, 12 mil this year, 12.1 this year, 12.65 next year, and that's a decent chunk to have, especially when you're looking at what is essentially a very, very, very good team with one sort of veteran leader and then a bunch of young stars guys who are just exploding onto the scene. This team as it is without him are flying, and yeah, he just does not sound like the kind of guy you want around your team at all. I think we're all agreed that once he's not in Miami, he's not in the NBA. which is just mad. Okay, let's do some trivia quickly then. It's the last pod before Christmas. That sounds like the beginning of that the night before Christmas thing, doesn't it? That wasn't even deliberate. So we're going to have Christmas trivia.
Bring it on. This has got to be better than politics. Last week.
So I've got 4 questions for you. Again, multiple choice on the answers. And if you get the wrong answer, you're frozen out. That's all I need to say, isn't it? There's nothing else that I've forgotten. We're good to go with this. Okay. The NBA at Christmas is a tradition almost as old as the league itself. How many years straight have there been Christmas games? 72, 73, or 74?
72.
Winner. There you go.
Yes,
1-0 to Tom.
knew that.
You want to retire now, are you? Bernard King holds the Christmas Day record for the most points in a single game, as I mentioned earlier, with 60. In what year did this happen? 84, 85, or 86?
86.
Out.
Oh.
85.
Also out. It was 84. It's the 35th anniversary. Question 3. The Toronto Raptors are hosting their first NBA Christmas game, but how many previous Christmas games have they taken part in? A, none. B, 1. C, 2.
None.
Out.
Oh.
1.
Correct. 2001 versus the New York Knicks. Final question. And it's all to play for here because it's not actually Tom's 1-2-2-0.
Double, make it interesting. Double points.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Question,
Double or nothing. In fact, let's go triple or nothing. So we actually get a decision.
I need the win. I don't know why I'm doing this, but go for it.
LeBron sits in 3rd place on the all-time scoring list for Christmas Day games. Which 2 players are ahead of him? Is it A, Oscar Robertson and Dwayne Wade? B, Kobe Bryant and Dwayne Wade? Or C, Kobe Bryant and Oscar Robertson?
Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade.
Out.
Oh.
C.
Correct. Oh, look at that. You take the triple point.
Wow. Just to rub it in.
Just to rub it in. Clean, you went triple or nothing and then just cleaned up. Amazing. Yeah. So there you go. Christmas trivia. Is there anything else you want to cover before we go?
Just that, as we were talking about Dion Waiters, you actually pitched a movie to me for which I am casting Samuel L. Jackson as we speak, Edibles on a Plane.
Edibles on a Plane.
Coming to your screen soon.
I'm going to cough now. Excellent. Okay. Tom, anything from you?
No, I'm ready to sleep and ready to fully digest Star Wars that I've not really had a chance to do yet. So we'll discuss it another time because it's only, it's not even a day old yet.
Not going to lie, I've not watched any of the new ones, so it's well beyond me. Okay, so thank you all for listening. As I mentioned at the start, if you're not already subscribed, please do so, rate and review us. Follow us on all social media at Double Clutch UK. Check out the website, doubleclutch.uk, where we've got lots of articles. Hugh Hopkins had a top 5 MVP race go up today. Matt Wellington, our founder, had Julius Randle, the biggest loser in New York. Josh Coyne had a political one where he...
that was great. That was so good.
He broke down Prime Minister Boris Johnson from a basketball perspective. Hughes had another one about Clint Capella being excellent for the Rockets. Sean Guest had one about Gary Payton and the Sonics, so make sure you go and check all of those out. Our friends over at Sky Sports, their Heat Check show is a Christmas special on Christmas Eve, previewing all the games. Make sure you check that out on YouTube. There may be a couple of special guests. Who knows? Can't say any more than that. Where can people find you, Nick?
At NJ Whitfield on Twitter.
Okay, and Tom?
Yeah, at Tom Hall 789 on Twitter, Instagram, Gmail, anything like that.
Perfect. Thank you very much for listening all, and Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone.